Hi, I'm Amanda and this is Copper. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome in if you're new. It's that time again for a monthly reading wrap up, and this is going to be for the month of March. And I read 17 books in the month of March. So let's go over them. I'll tell you all the books that I read, give you my star rating, and let you know if I think you should read them with a yes, no, or maybe. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first book that I read in March was House of Night by Celia. This was an ARC read, and I do believe it's already out. And I rated this one 4.25 stars, and I'm gonna say maybe for if I want to recommend it. It was a really fun read. It gave a lot of like Manacled vibes, and I just don't know if it was too similar to Manacled, which is kind of where the maybe is coming from. But I mean, I loved Manacled, so it was still really fun. I really enjoyed the read. So it's basically about our world is in like an apocalypse. It's the end of the world. There's a plague going around that's killing all the humans. And then there's also vampires that are killing off the rest of the humans that the plague hasn't already killed. And so the vampires pretty much take over the world. And the vampire king, I guess, has captured all the remaining humans left, and one of those is our FMC Georgia, and she is a doctor, and before she was imprisoned she was working on finding a cure for the plague. So she gets imprisoned by the vampires, and she has lost all of her memories from before being imprisoned. And the Vampire King thinks that she knows something about how his son was killed, so he really wants her memories. So he basically gives her off to one of his vampire like high commanding officers or whatever, I don't know what he was, as basically like a blood concubine. And this guy, his task is to like root around in her mind and find her missing memories to figure out who killed his son. So she gets sold off to this guy, and she's pretty much just like traumatized the whole time and wants to cease existing, but this guy won't let her. And there's just a whole lot of tension, which we love. But the tension never really broke, so I am excited for the next book. I'm excited to see where it goes, and the cliffhanger at the end of this was just criminal. So I do think I would read the second book, but this one was fun. I had a fun time. All right, and then March was basically an Elsie Silver month, which we love. And I read the whole Chestnut Spring series. So let's start with Heartless. I absolutely love this book. It might be my favorite out of the series. We'll see. I rated this one 5 stars. This one's a hell yes from me. I absolutely love Daddy Cade. I love Willa, and I just really love this story. So yeah. And then Powerless by Elsie Silver. I was expecting a lot from this book. I thought this was going to be one of my favorites, but unfortunately I don't think it is. I rated this one 4 stars. It's still a yes from me, even though it wasn't my favorite out of the series. Elsie Silver can do no wrong in my book, so it was still good. So this one is about Jasper and Sloan. And Jasper is a hockey player, and I love hockey romance books, so that's kind of where I was expecting a lot from this book, but it just did not give a lot of hockey vibes, which was kind of disappointing to me. And the major like plot of this book was Beau being missing, and he was missing for like half of this book, and it was just such a big part of this, and I just didn't love it. It kind of made the whole book a kind of a downer in my eyes, just because Beau was missing and they're like constantly depressed and worrying about him, and I just didn't feel like there was that much going on except for that. So I don't know, it was just kind of weird. And again, I just kind of wanted so much more. I just felt like there wasn't enough of Jasper's life, of like his hockey and his team. There's like 2 conversations with one of his teammates and then like one with his coach. So I just feel like there could have been more of that and less of them worrying about Beau and Beau being missing. So I don't know, I expected a lot more from this book and I just did not get it. So I still loved it, but not one of my favorites. Hot take. And then next is Reckless, and I did really love this book. I most of all loved Winter and her character. Winter is like the Nesta character in Chestnut Springs, and I'm a Nesta girly. I love that. I always love those characters that are kind of misunderstood and they come off as being a bitch and like hating everyone, but inside they're just like battling their own demons and they just kind of don't know how to express themselves. And I will always love that character. I relate a lot to that. So I really loved Winter. And I actually love a good accidental pregnancy trope, so this was fun. I do wish that we could have seen more of her like being pregnant. I think it would have been a really fun time reading about her being pregnant, and she was probably a nightmare, I would assume. I just think it would have been really fun, but we didn't get that. But she's such a good mom. And then there's Theo, who is just like this teddy bear, golden retriever, like superhero dad. And I love that for Winter. And yeah, overall, I love them together. I love this story. It was super fun. And I rated this one 5 stars. It's a hell yes from me. And then finishing out Chestnut Springs, I read Hopeless. And I know a lot of people don't like this book, that this is usually people's like least favorite, but I loved it. I rated this one 5 stars. It's a yes from me. I really loved Bailey and her character. I think she's like just such a complex character. She's just really struggling in this town where everyone hates her just because of her family. And she's just kicking and fighting and working to get herself the hell out of that town so that she can go somewhere new where people can get to know her for who she actually is, which is just an amazing person. She's so funny. I love how she just says whatever's on her mind, at least to Beau. But I really love this story. I love fake dating. And I will say, a lot of people hate on this book because of like the feet scenes, and I didn't think they were that bad. I get where people don't like it, but I think it's kind of blown out of proportion. So I loved it, and yeah, I love the whole series. I do need to do a complete ranking of the whole series, which I am planning on doing, so stay tuned for that. Okay, and then I read Court of Blood and Bindings by Lisette Marshall. This was another arc, and I really love this book. I rated it 4.5 stars, and I'm gonna say yes for this one. This book had a really fun and unique magic system. It was like color magic, which was just so fun. I loved it. I loved the story. I was hooked from the very beginning. And what I really loved about this book was the character development, especially with the main male character, Kuang. He is this really morally gray character, and once you kind of figure out what is motivating him, it just kind of made me fall in love with the book. It was a big turning point for me, and I really loved seeing that other side of his character. And I just really loved the world. There was something so magical about it. There's like this labyrinth in the world, which is like this underground cave system, but there are all these like gemstones embedded in the walls. and it just sounds so magical, and I just want to live there. So it was a really fun story. I would highly recommend it. And this is a whole series. It's like the Fae Isle series, I think. So I do have the other 3 books in the series. I think there are also some novellas, but I can't wait to read the other 3 books. I do believe they're all on Kindle Unlimited, so I would highly recommend it. It was such a fun read. I had such a fun time, and yeah, you should go read it. And then I listened to the audiobook for Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I loved this book. I'm gonna be honest though and say that probably the main reason why I love this book is because the main male character is Swedish. That's just a big selling point for me. So I loved it. It was a really fun story. It was really messy, which I love. I loved all the drama, and I don't know, I just love Ali Hazelwood. I think I will love everything that she writes. So I just had a fun time. Is it the best book that's ever written? Maybe not, but I had a fun time, and that's all that matters. So I rated this one 4.25 stars, and it's a yes from me. And then I read Amid Clouds and Bones by Ella Fields. This was a really fun book for a standalone romantasy. I thought it was really fun. I felt like the world was pretty well developed for it just being like one book, and it was a really fun ride. I was like going back and forth on who I could trust throughout this whole book, and it was really fun. And I rated this one 4.25 stars, and I say yes for this one. And then I listened to the audiobook for Shamrock Kisses by Serena Pier, and she actually was nice enough to send this to me, and it was a really fun listen. It's a cute little, obviously, St. Patrick's Day novella. So it was a really fun listen. I rated it 3.5 stars, and I'm gonna say yes if you're listening to it around St. Patrick's Day. It was super fun, so why not? And of course, I had to keep up with my Elsie Silver journey, and I read Wild Side, which just came out in March, and this was a really fun book as well. Again, Elsie Silver can do no wrong. I had such a fun time reading it. I will say that I don't think wrestling is my favorite thing. I don't think I would search out wrestling books, but it was still a fun time. I rated this one 4 stars, and obviously it's a yes. I do wish we could have learned some more about Reese. I just feel like his story could have been told a lot more, just with like his childhood, and he obviously has some trauma with being like in the foster care system. And I just kind of wanted a little bit more of that. He's just kind of so closed off that I kind of wanted him to open up maybe a little bit more. But I still really love this story. I loved them working through like their grief together while trying to raise Milo after his mom just died. It was a really fun story. I had a good time. Not my all-time favorite. And I can't wait for the next one in the Rose Hill series, Wild Card. It sounds like it's gonna be such a fun read. And then she just announced her other new series, which I cannot wait for. I'm just going to make it an Elsie Silver year and just read the rest of hers. I still have the Gold Rush Ranch series to read, so I can finally get into that without worrying about that being the end of my Elsie Silver journey, because she's coming out with her new series, which is so exciting. So yes for this one. And then I listened to the audiobook for The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop. This was so fun. I absolutely love Gilmore Girls, love Emily Gilmore and Kelly Bishop. This was such a fun listen, getting to hear more about her life other than Gilmore Girls. She is such a badass. She's just so inspiring. She's lived an amazing life. and she will always be iconic to me for being Emily Gilmore, and I just love her so much. And I think I rated this one like 4 stars, and it's a yes from me. If you love Gilmore Girls, obviously. Even if you don't, she's just such an icon that I would still say yes, so yes. And then I read Heir of Illusion by Madeline Taylor. This was another arc, and I rated this one 4.75 stars, and I definitely think it's a yes. You guys should definitely read this. This one just came out on March 31st, so you can go and read it, and I would highly recommend it. This was such a fun read. I really loved the world, and the twist at the end really had me. I did not see it coming at all, and I can't wait for more books. It was such a fun read. It was really fast-paced, but the writing was really well done, where I didn't feel like overwhelmed by the story and everything that was happening. I was just hooked and locked in, and it was so fun, so highly recommend that one. And then I read The Lost God by Sheila Masterson. This was part of my Sisterhood of the Traveling book club, and I rated this one 4.25 stars, and I'm gonna say yes for this one. Again, it was another fun fantasy read. I had a really fun time reading it. I'm definitely Team Xander. And this one does have a love triangle, which I don't love, and I really hope that will be resolved in like the next book, because I cannot stand love triangles being drawn out. But it was still a really fun read. I really enjoyed it. Then I read Fight by Sloan St. James, and man, have I been missing out on like the firefighter romance books. Where have they been? Why are there not more of them? I ate it up. It was such a fun read. I really loved it, and I just completely devoured this book. It was such a fun time. I rated it 4.5 stars, and it's a hell yes from me. I can't wait to read the next book, Protect by Paisley Hope. I absolutely love Paisley Hope, so I cannot wait to read this next one by her. And then I've heard kind of mixed reviews on the 3rd book, so we'll kind of see where the journey takes us. But yeah. And then I listened to the audiobook for The Wedding People by Alison Espach. This was my work book club pick, and I rated this one 2.5 stars, and it's a no from me. I honestly probably would have DNF'd this book if it wasn't my work book club pick. It just was not for me. There were some really weird moments in this book, and I just found the main character, Phoebe, to be insufferable and really annoying. So it's a no from me. I know a lot of people love the book, but it just was not my favorite. And then I read The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I rated this one 2.5 stars, and again, this is a no from me. I know a lot of people love this book as well, and maybe I'm just not a high fantasy reader. I had a really hard time reading this book. I was confused like for most of the book. There's just a ton of information, and so many things are going on that I just could not keep up. And obviously this is about a war, and just some of the war scenes were just really graphic, and I did not love that. I get that that's what war is about, but I did not love reading about it. It was just honestly depressing, and I don't know how I feel about this book. So I'm gonna need some major convincing to finish the series. I have the other 2 books. I just don't know if I want to continue. So if you've read this book and this series, and if you loved it, Please give me a reason to keep reading. Please convince me. I don't know. And then I needed a fluffy romance book to pick me up after those last 2-star reads. So I read Daydream by Hannah Grace, and this was the perfect book. I rated this one 4 stars, and I would recommend this. I love this series. I know it's a bit controversial, but I have a fun time reading them. I think Wildfire is still my favorite of the series, but I did really love this one. I love Henry and Hallie. They were really fun to read about, and I don't know, I had a fun time. So yeah. All right, so those are my March reads. I think it was a really great reading month for me. I had a lot of 5-star reads and a couple not so great ones, but overall I loved it. I had such a fun time. And as always, let me know if you have read any of these, if you love them, if you hate them, let me know. Love you guys, bye.